Well, hello everybody, and welcome to a 1.20 update opinion video. Today I want to cover all of the new blocks and decorative elements that are being added to the 1.20 Trails and Tales update. There are a lot of new blocks in this update. It's really shaping up to be one of the biggest updates we've had in a long time. Let's start off with the Chiseled Bookshelf. So this is a new version of the bookshelf, and it is actually functional. You can place books inside the bookshelf. So it's going to add a lot of variety and functionality to builds where you have like a library or a study, something like that. I also like that it has a side texture. The original bookshelf was just books on all four sides, and so this is a much more realistic depiction of what a bookshelf should look like. Next up, we've got the bamboo blocks, and there is a whole bamboo wood set being added to the game. So you've got your bamboo doors, your bamboo fences, your bamboo buttons, all of that. These are the full blocks. So we've got our stripped bamboo, this nice kind of bundled texture. We've got our bamboo plank. We've got the bamboo mosaic block and the bamboo block. Birch has always been kind of the go-to light wood in the game, and it's going to be nice to have a new option as far as that goes. It is much, much more yellow than birch. When you see them next to each other, this is just a very yellow block, whereas this is much, much more pale. When you look at the bamboo next to some of the yellow blocks, like yellow terracotta or yellow concrete, yellow wool, these yellows are much, much more orange. Bamboo next to these looks really green. The lime green blocks are not terrible. You know, if you look at your lime concrete or your lime glazed terracotta, they sit okay. But some of the mossy blocks are a much closer match for this sort of green. So you got your green terracotta and then like your moss block. Those sit really, really well with these kind of olive army greens that are in the bamboo. Similar with the block of bamboo, those greens are just a great match for this block. If you're doing a build that's sort of jungly or ruins, something like that, the bamboo is going to sit really nice with some of these overgrown blocks. Next up, we've got this block. And yeah, let me tell you all about this block. A while ago, I did a video on sculk frequency detectors, and that's what this is here. So this sculk block has a redstone contraption that is looking for a specific frequency. So you'll notice if I place a block, we get a signal, but it doesn't get through to the lamp. If I break the block, same deal, right? What's going on is we're sending a signal into the side of this comparator, so it is setting a lower and upper limit, so only a certain frequency can get through to our lamp. And that frequency happens to be if I walk. And you'll notice we get a light. So this is a really awesome contraption for getting a sculk block to look for a specific event. So this block does exactly the same thing. You can see here we are sending a specific frequency into the calibrated sculk block. So this is being read by the comparator, and we send it in on the purple side. And so you'll notice if I place a block, nothing happens. If I break the block, nothing happens. But if I walk, we get a signal. Really, really simple, much smaller footprint. And the other thing that's really great is the cooldown is much quicker. Now what I mean by that is, when I send a signal to a sculk block, you'll notice that it takes a second for it to kind of reset itself. So if I send a signal and then I break it, it didn't catch that second signal. If I send it this signal and then I walk, we still didn't get a lamp light up because this hadn't cooled down yet. So I'll try it again. Break it, walk, didn't detect it. So it takes a little bit, a couple seconds for this to cool down. By contrast, this guy, I can put this down, break it, walk, and did you see how quickly that cooled down? It noticed that really fast. I'll do it again. Place the block, walk, I got a signal. Break the block, place the block, walk, got a signal. So it cools down really quickly. So if you send it the wrong signal and then the right signal, you don't have to pause and wait for it to reset. It does it very, very quickly. The door in my base is attached to a sculk frequency detector, and the door opens when I ring a bell. But the problem is if it picks up any other signal, I have to pause for a moment while the sculk resets. So if the sculk happens to detect me walking, I have to wait a couple seconds, then I can ring the bell. This thing here is going to take care of all of that. Next up, we've got the cherry blossom leaves, and this is a really flowery block. I remember when the azalea leaves came out and the flowering azalea seemed really flowery, but by comparison, when you see the two next to each other, this one is way more flowery, and I think it's going to be a cool block for landscaping, gardens, things like that. And that brings us to the cherry blossom wood. This block right here, this texture on the bark, I am really excited about. This dark purple is really cool looking. Some of the purple blocks go too far into the blue and just not a great match. But some of the more red blocks, they sit really nice. For example, purple terracotta, that's a really great match. And some of the nether wood also goes really well with this. If you wanted to do something as an example like this, that would be a really great block palette. As far as the wood itself, it's a much different pink than anything we've had before. All of our pink blocks right now are a much more hot pink, or much more of like a flamingo pink. This is much more rosy, closer to like a bubblegum or cotton candy. And that brings us to some of the weirder blocks. So we've got the suspicious blocks, suspicious gravel, suspicious sand. These guys are not really meant for building, they're more where you're gonna find your loot and your treasure. Among that treasure, you can find pottery shards, and these are gonna be used to make decorated pots. This is a really interesting block. You can see it doesn't use the entire space, like it leaves a little bit of room in between. So if you did these in front of a wall, you could create a pretty cool texture. If you stack these, the little top bit kind of goes away. And so potentially you could use these as a building block for pillars or things like that. It's a really cool look, I think. As far as the color of this block, it's not quite terracotta. It's not quite pink terracotta. It's not quite red. It's not quite orange. It's kind of this in-between color. So potentially it could be really useful in a lot of different block palettes. And lastly, we've got the sniffer egg, another strange shape. You can stack them. They don't quite fill the entire space of a block. I'm not sure if we could actually build with it. I guess you could until it hatched. But it'll be interesting to see if people come up with a way to utilize this. And lastly, I just wanted to talk about some of the decorative items that we've got added in this update. So we've got, of course, the hanging signs, which are going to be a game changer for theming and building. We've got our cherry blossom sapling, which is going to be really nice for interiors and decor. We've got a couple of new flowers. We've got our pitcher plant and our torch flower. And then we've got these little pink petals. These are really cool. They're not quite flat. You can see they stick up just a little bit. And kind of like sea pickles, the more of them you place, the more dense it gets. And so that's kind of a cool block. I'm excited to use this in some garden builds and that sort of thing. So overall, I'm super stoked. There is just, like I said, a ton of great stuff in this update. We have a lot of really cool things that are going to be useful for decorating and interiors. For me, that's where I struggle, is how do I decorate the insides? And some of these saplings and flowers and bookshelves and pottery, it's going to be awesome. In addition to that, new wood types, new colors, another redstone component. Very, very exciting. Not to mention archaeology finally coming to Minecraft. So overall, I think this is one of the best updates we've seen in a long, long time, and I'm very excited for it to come out. Oh man, I took so long talking about the blocks, my sniffer egg hatched. So leave me a comment, let me know what you're excited about in the 1.20 update, and I'll see you in the next one.